Hey friends, I am coming in for another egg white bread video. I am trying a suggestion that I have received from several of you. I've gotten a bunch of comments saying that the bread turns out just as good if you beat the egg white powder in from the very beginning. So I have always gone with what Maria Emmerich said. She says not to do that because it'll give the bread a styrofoam texture. I just took her at her word because the woman is a freaking genius. But now I have heard so many times that it actually works just fine and it keeps the mess down that I figured I should try it. And I thought it might be helpful for me to do this test for you guys because these ingredients are not cheap, and maybe some of you are curious if this works, but you don't want to waste the ingredients if it doesn't work. So here we go. I've got all of my ingredients ready to go, and at this point I can almost make this bread in my sleep. I have 12 egg whites. I'm gonna add a half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of cream of tartar, 1/4 of a cup of allulose, and 1 cup, which equals 80 grams of the egg white protein powder. And this is still the Judee's brand egg white protein powder. Feels so wrong to do this, you guys, but I'm gonna do it. $80 grams, perfect. So the consistency is definitely creamier than what I'm used to, and I'm not sure, I'm not sure what I'm going for since I've never whipped it this way before. It is pretty thick though, so I think we might be close. I just wanted to scrape the sides down a little bit just in case there was any powder stuck. And then maybe I'll whip it for a few more minutes and then try it, because it's already been going longer than I normally mix it. So I think I've got to be pretty close. It doesn't seem like it's thickening anymore. I think that's about as thick as I'm going to be able to get it. You guys that use this method, let me know if this is how yours usually looks or if I should have gone longer, but I think I'm going to call it because it just didn't seem like it was getting any thicker. The consistency is definitely different than the finished consistency when you mix in the egg white powder at the end. My oven is preheated, how handy. That is what the consistency looks like. It's very much like shaving cream. So appetizing. I feel like it's less batter than normal, so it might be a little bit more condensed, but let's bake it and see what happens. 30 minutes at 325, and then I will turn off the oven and keep it in there for another 30 minutes before I take it out. About halfway through cook time, let's check this out. Oh, it's looking pretty good. Hasn't fallen yet, that's positive. I just checked it a second ago and it does not look done. So you can see it still looks pretty gushy. It's pretty wet inside there. So I'm gonna cook it for another 5 or 10 minutes and see how it goes. So it's been in here another 10 minutes and now it's looking about like it should. So I'm gonna turn the oven off and let it sit for 30 minutes. 30-minute cooling time is up. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, all right. It does look a little more sunken than normal, I will say that, but it's not flat. It still looks like bread, looks good. I'm gonna let it cool a little bit more before I take it out of the pan. But all in all, it looks pretty nice. It definitely does look different than the other. I think it looks smoother and the batter was, you know, creamier because all of the powder was mixed in all from the beginning, so it had more time to really get creamy. I'm interested to see what the taste is gonna be like. So Charity, what did you say it looked like?
It looked like peanut butter.
It does look like peanut butter. It's so smooth and the color is just the same as peanut butter. It's time to go ahead and take this out of the pan. And then I will put it on the rack and let it cool completely. Ooh, there we go. Okay, so I'm noticing some sinkage of the sides. That is normal to get some sinkage. This does seem like more than I typically get. So I'm gonna say that that's probably a negative of the whipping the egg white powder in from the beginning. But all in all, it doesn't look terrible. My bread is the same color as my cutting board. Ha. So one last look at this here after it's cooled. Sides sunk in a lot more than normal for me. So that's what it looks like. Let's get it cut up. Ooh, the inside still looks super nice. Very white and fluffy. All right, let's take a peek at this. It's very soft. It feels maybe a touch softer than the regular. It looks great. I'm gonna give it a taste. See how this is. The taste is really good. I'd say just as good as when I put in the egg white powder at the end. The texture is just a little bit different because the egg white powder got so creamed into the mixture instead of just barely mixed in till it was mixed. But it's not bad, it's good. All right, so my pros and cons of making the bread this way. First pro, it was a lot cleaner. I didn't get my mixer as messy as I do when I put the powder in at the end. A con is that it took longer to mix. Another con is it took longer to bake. Another con is that the sides did sink in for me more than usual. I'd say taste is equal and texture is equally good on both, even though it's a little bit different in texture, they're both equally good. So my final verdict, will I start making my bread this way regularly? No, I will not. And mainly it's because of the way that it's sunk in. I like the look of the bread I make putting the egg white powder in at the end. I get a more uniform loaf, even though it is different every time, but I feel like I get a better shape and the sides don't sink in as much. Now, you guys who swear by this technique, please tell me if you saw something that I did that was wrong. I beat the egg whites for quite a long time and definitely longer than I normally do. Maybe I should have just kept beating them. Maybe they would have gotten a little bit thicker. Let me know what you think on that. But all in all, I'm not gonna call it a fail. Mixing up your bread this way is just gonna be a personal preference. One other thing I wanted to throw in is that I have seen a couple of recipes where the egg white powder is blended in at the beginning, but both of the ones that I saw, and there could be more that are different, but the ones that I saw also had xanthan gum added to the mixture. And I'm wondering if maybe the xanthan gum helps stabilize the egg whites a little bit more, and so you don't get that sinking. That's a possibility. I did try a recipe that had xanthan gum in it, and I did not care for it at all. I thought the xanthan gum gave it a really, really bad texture, made it more gummy, and I definitely preferred the original bread texture without xanthan gum. So if you are one that mixes the egg powder in at the beginning, let me know if you're using xanthan gum or not and how it works out for you. Thanks so much for coming along on this little experiment. I hope it was helpful and informative, and I will see you again in another video.